800 years ago, there existed 20 kingdoms. And for an unknown reason, they found one kingdom, the so-called Ancient Kingdom, who had a great power of some sort, threatening enough to come together and overthrow them. They succeeded, and in a desperate attempt to keep their story alive, the Ancient Kingdom wrote on unbreakable stones what we later know as poneglyphs, and they somehow got scattered across the world, never to let what happened that day vanish. But the most important question still stands. Who are these people that ruled this Ancient Kingdom? And why is the government so persistent on hiding the fact that the kingdom exists? Well, my answer to the formal is that the very people who ruled the kingdom are the same people that are bearers of the name D that we know today. And for the latter, my answer will come later in the video, so be sure to watch until the end to figure out why I think they're hiding this kingdom. And while you're here, please hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. It only takes a few seconds and makes a massive difference. The first point I want to speak on is what exactly the Ancient Kingdom and D-Clan are. It'll be a good segue into one of the most convincing theories I think I've thought of while reading. The D-Clan is a special type of bloodline that many different characters have in the story, and the government in a lot of instances tries to hide from the world. No one really knows what it stands for or means, except for the Roger Pirates, most likely the higher-ups in the world government, and the conversation with Law and Sengoku leads me to believe that he actually knows something about it. Those are the ones I know, but if I forget someone, please let me know in the comments. The Ancient Kingdom is first mentioned in the flashback with the Buster Call on Ohara, and Professor Clover mentions how the world government doesn't care about the ancient weapons destroying anything, but they wanted to hide the fact that this kingdom ever even existed. They feared what this kingdom stood for. So why do I think these two are linked? Why are the rulers of the kingdom the D-Clan, and why is it so important for the world government to hide the members of the D-Clan in some instances? Well, let's dive deeper into the conversation with Clover and the Marines. Professor Clover mentions how the enemy that the Ancient Kingdom had most likely exists to this day. It appears that they had an enormous power, but all the information about this kingdom has been relentlessly erased. It is probable that these people understood they would be destroyed by the Alliance of Nations, later called the government, and carved the truth of their existence into pieces of stone, which survive to this day, known as the poneglyphs. This piqued my interest because the government didn't fear the destruction of the kingdom, but they feared the reason why it existed. I think this kingdom had inhabited every race that were minorities to the rest of the world and the kingdoms, but I'll save that for later. Secondly, if the world government is the only faction that will still exist from that 100-year void besides the world government, why would the people who got erased still write a message? Is it not possible that that Ancient Kingdom wrote for a certain group that they know would exist in the future? When you look at the endgame side of things, only a couple things are mentioned when you talk about what information is actually at Rapsol. And there's only one faction that's mentioned in the same conversation as the Ancient Kingdom, and is even mentioned in the same speech bowl as it, and that is the D-Clan. I believe the D smile when they die because it is in their bloodline to know that whatever they left behind will be carried to another D or whoever inherits their will, that their unfinished deeds get finished regardless of death. There's countless examples of this, so I won't go into crazy detail, but Ace lived and died by a family just like his mother did. When Ace died, he said himself that Luffy would finish a job he couldn't. And the most important quote is when Whitebeard says, "Just as there are some that inherit Roger's will, someone will eventually do the same as Ace," as it pans over Luffy's unconscious body. And you can sever bloodlines, but their flame will never be extinguished. There's also a panel at chapter 99 where it mentions that legends in the future are a result of events that took place in the distant past. Then you go to Grand Times, which is a recap that took place on Break of One Piece, and it says that the D lineage started off as only ripples in the water and later turned into a great tsunami. And this was where I started to hop on the train that the D's were the original rulers of this kingdom that got overthrown. This makes perfect sense to me because just like how the D-Clan are natural enemies of the gods, which are the world government, the 20 kingdoms hated what the Ancient Kingdom stood for so much that they all banded together and decided to stop them. I think the Ancient Kingdom itself was a kingdom that was ruled by the D members and had a family of giants a part of this D-Clan, as we see Saul say that his whole family, which are giants, are indeed a part of this clan. We know the Kazuki clan first made the poneglyphs 800 years ago as confirmed in Zou, which was the time this void started. So whatever this kingdom was, must have had a good relationship with the Kazukis and presumably lived there or allied with them. And you may be wondering, if a lot of people who were in a high position in this kingdom were of the D-Clan, then do we know any of them? And yes, I think it is possible. I think that the king of this kingdom or someone that lived in this kingdom was Joyboy. It is confirmed that Joyboy lived in this 100-year void, and during his time of living, everything above the island of Fishman Island Island had ended. Do you see where I'm going with this? There was a great war that this ancient kingdom ended up losing and getting erased from, and in Fishman Island it is stated that during Joyboy's life, something had ended on the surface. This kingdom he lived in was the most free place you could imagine. Every different clan, giants, or any race of that matter. What if there was one race missing? And that is a fisherman. It's confirmed that Joyboy lived in the void and went down to try to get them to come up to the surface. That will unite them, but from the time he went down there and made the promise to trying to go back up, something intercepted him. And this is why the poneglyph is left behind as we know it. The kingdom had had enough, whether it was from this action or everything the kingdom stood for. Then again, the world government think they're a god, and what's a better ruler to oppose them than a D-clan member? And in a last-ditch effort to not have their story be erased like everything else the world government doesn't like, the D members wrote these things on the poneglyphs, knowing that there will be a group to carry on what they plan and what they already have. Freedom. This ties perfectly into Joyboy and Luffy, because knowing what we know from recent chapters, Joyboy seems to be an alias of sorts, so the possibility of Joyboy being a D is still on the table. Seeing what Joyboy was trying to do in Fishman Island, and now seeing Luffy's dream of being the most free man, and presumably being the one to use ancient weapons, something that Professor Clover hints that the ancient kingdom had to destroy the Red Line and unite all the seas, makes absolute sense to me. And assuming this is all true, the reason why Roger wanted to live in Joyboy's time might be because he has everything he tried for, but even more. Instead of being one free pirate with a free pirate crew, he had an entire kingdom where you could be free. He is the true pirate king. This is a random thought I had, but I wanted to add it anyway. But if you look at Kaido and Big Mom, someone who was on Roxas' crew and probably knows a good amount of information about the world, despite not knowing everything, as they do have interest in capturing Robin, could they possibly be trying to imitate Joyboy? If this theory is true, could Big Mom possibly be modeling Whole Cake after this kingdom from whatever information she has, and trying to bring all the races together? Could Kaido have been trying to die in a great war just as Joyboy might have done? I don't know if I think this is actually true, but it is just a random thought I had. What we know for certain is the ancient kingdom was the enemy of the other kingdoms who later formed the world government, just as the D-clan are natural enemies of God, the world government. This kingdom is something that the world government covered up, just as the D name was in the dark shadows of history for a long time. And as I close this video out, please let me know how you guys liked the video. Don't forget to like, sub, and hit the notification bell. Until next time, peace. Yo, I'm out of freestyle. You already know what it is. We still in the crib for real. These other rappers' babies need a bit for real. Yeah, that's where I got with.